Saul Goodman gets Sean Combs a full acquittal. This is not a plea deal, not a hung jury, not even a mistrial on some technicality that resets the clock. Not guilty. Clean, 0 convictions, 5 for 5. First, you need to understand who Saul Goodman really is, because if the only version of this guy you know is the strip mall ambulance chaser from Breaking Bad, the one with the inflatable Statue of Liberty and the burner phones, you have no idea what this lawyer can do. Start with the origin. They call him Slippin Jimmy, a con man from Cicero, Illinois, who threw himself down icy sidewalks for insurance money. That is where he begins. And from the mailroom of his brother's law firm, he studies law by a correspondence course from the University of American Samoa, and he passes the bar. A former grifter with a mail-order legal education passes the same exam that people with real degrees from real schools fail on their first try. Then look at what he does with it. Everyone at that level is chasing corporate retainers. Saul builds the Sandpiper case instead, a class action against an elderly care chain quietly overbilling its residents, little old people with nobody to protect them. He takes the clients no one wants and turns it into one of the biggest cases of his career. But here is the one that matters for Diddy. In Better Call Saul, his own brother Chuck secretly tapes him confessing to a crime, breaking into Chuck's house and altering documents, and plays that tape at a hearing that could end Jimmy's career. The tape is real. The confession on it is real. And watch what Saul does, because it is the same strategy that will get Diddy a get-out-of-jail-free card. He does not attack the tape. He does not claim it was doctored. He attacks the man holding it. Chuck believes he has a rare condition where his body physically reacts to electricity, so Saul has an investigator slip a live, fully charged cell phone battery into Chuck's suit pocket before he takes the stand. He lets Chuck testify in detail in front of everyone that he can feel any electronic device near him. Then he reveals the battery. Chuck has been wired the entire time and felt nothing. Chuck melts down on the stand, screaming that he is not crazy, and the second he does, his credibility is gone, and he loses the case built on his word. Understand what that means. Saul did not beat the evidence. He beat the person and the process delivering the evidence. He found the one seam the whole thing hung on, and he pulled it. Hold on to that, because Diddy's case has a tape too. A piece of footage so damning most lawyers would tell him to plead the second they saw it. And the trait that makes him the right lawyer for this specific nightmare is simple. The more unwinnable the case looks, and the more the public has already decided the guy is guilty, the more Saul wants it. A client the whole internet has already convicted is not a problem to him. It is the job. This is where it gets tricky. Raw courtroom genius is not enough on this one, and most defense attorneys, the good ones, the ones who win, would take one look at this file and refuse it. Because Saul's whole method is to attack the witness and attack the procedure. And in this case, it is built specifically to deny him that. Every seam he would normally reach for has been welded shut. Look at the walls. The first is that 2016 hotel video. Security footage from the Intercontinental in Los Angeles aired by CNN showing Combs grabbing Cassie Ventura in a hallway, throwing her to the floor, kicking her, and dragging her back by her hoodie. You cannot unsee it, neither can a jury. It is the kind of evidence that decides a case before a single argument gets made. If you've made it this far, feel free to subscribe so I can keep making these type of videos. The second wall is the testimony. Cassie Ventura on the stand for days, describing the freak-offs, the drugs, the hired escorts, years of it. Then a second woman testifying under the name Jane, corroboration stacked on corroboration. And then the third wall, the one nobody thinks about, and the one that decides everything. In real life, that expensive dream team did the near impossible. They beat the racketeering conspiracy charge. They beat both sex trafficking charges, the heavy counts, the ones that carried life, gone. And they still lost. The jury convicted Sean Combs on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, one for Cassie, one for Jane, under a law called the Mann Act. Those 2 counts stuck. Those 2 counts are why he went to prison. So that is the real gap. The best money could buy already beat everything except those 2. If Saul is going to do better than reality, better than the most expensive lawyers in the country, he has to close the exact gap they couldn't. 5 charges. 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, the RICO count, where the government paints Combs as the head of a criminal enterprise, running his life and his businesses like a mob boss who used employees, security, and money to enable and cover up the abuse. and 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, 1 for Cassie, 1 for Jane, and 2 counts of transporting people across state lines to engage in prostitution. The Mann Act counts. The case is built on the freak-offs. According to Cassie's testimony, these were days-long, drug-fueled sex marathons with hired male escorts, while Combs watched, directed, and recorded. She testified she was told to find the escorts online, get his approval, hire them, and arrange for them to travel to wherever the couple happened to be. Escorts paid $1,500 to $6,000 in cash. These events ran across the country and beyond. New York, Miami, LA, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Ibiza. Then the coercion layer, the part that turns a private sex life into trafficking. Prosecutors put up testimony that Combs threatened to release sex tapes to keep Cassie compliant, leaned on drugs, on control, on fear, and sitting on top of it all, that hotel video, the physical proof of what the violence in this relationship looked like. The prosecution walked into that courtroom with a video, 2 accusers, travel records, hotel records, and cash trails. They were so confident in the mountain they had built that the defense rested without calling a single witness. 0. They looked at it and decided the smartest move was to add nothing. I will be honest with you, the first time I laid out all of this, count by count, video and testimony and travel logs, I was sure there was no way out of it. It looks airtight, and that is the exact kind of impossible that makes Saul pick up the phone. So Diddy gets the one call every arrested man gets: better call Saul. Here is the first thing Saul does, and it is the whole game. He refuses to argue against the question everyone else is. The entire country is asking one thing: is Sean Combs a monster? The video, the testimony, the abuse. And on that question, the answer is bad for the client, so Saul does not touch it. He walks into that courtroom and re-asks the only question that decides these 2 surviving counts. Not, is he a bad man? Did the government prove that he transported someone across state lines for the purpose of prostitution? The Mann Act, 18 U.S.C. 2421, makes the government prove 2 things. 1, that the defendant knowingly transported a person or caused them to be transported across state or international lines. And 2, that he did it with the specific intent that the person engage in prostitution. Both elements, not just travel near people who sell sex, travel he undertook for that illegal purpose. Miss either piece and the count fails. And there is a real Supreme Court case that draws exactly this line. Mortensen versus United States, 1944. The court reserved a Mann Act conviction where the transportation of a woman who happened to be prostitutes was folded into an innocent vacation trip. The holding. The purpose had to be illegal at the time of the transportation. Merely moving people connected to prostitution is not the crime. The trip itself had to be for it. Remember who arranged the travel? It was not Combs booking flights for escorts. According to the trial testimony, it was Cassie who found the escorts. Cassie who reached out. Cassie who booked the hotel rooms, sometimes under an alias. Cassie who ran the logistics. Combs approved, but the physical acts of transporting and arranging and booking came from the woman. And under Mortensen, that matters, because the statute is about whose purpose drove the transportation. Saul stands up and argues that the government proved Combs wanted these events. Fine, but it did not cleanly prove the transporting act was his, undertaken by him for that purpose rather than logistics the woman ran themselves. In real life, the prosecutors argued that Combs orchestrated and funded the whole thing, so he caused the transportation even if he never personally booked a room. And the judge later called the evidence of that overwhelming. The real jury and the real judge went the other way on this exact point. So this is not a gift the real lawyers fumbled. This is Saul out-arguing a fight the actual defense lost. He takes the who caused the travel question, which the real team touched and dropped. Next, the consensual lifestyle framing, which is the real theory Combs' lead lawyers, Mark Agnifilo and Tenny Garagos, ran in a closing that went about 5 hours. Their argument? This was a swinger's lifestyle, consensual threesomes, recreational drugs, and yes, some regrettable domestic violence, but a private sex life the government inflated into a criminal enterprise. And that framing did something. It worked. It is a big part on why the real jury acquitted on RICO and on both trafficking counts, because text messages and testimony showed the women consenting to at least some of it, which put reasonable doubt straight into the force, fraud, or coercion element. Then the hardest one, the definitional attack, also lifted from Combs' real post-trial argument. His role does not meet the legal definition of the crime. He did not have sex with the escorts. Combs watched. Combs recorded. The judge in the real case ruled that prostitution here meant sex in exchange for money, and the escorts taking cash satisfied that. So Saul cannot pretend no money changed hands. Instead, he drives the wedge into the by him question. The men were paid, but the transporting and the arranging and the paying were tangled up between Combs and Cassie in a way the government never cleanly separated. Saul makes the jury stare at that tangle until it looks like doubt. And now, the moment that wins it. Saul turns to that hotel video, the prosecution's single most powerful piece of evidence, and he does the Chuck move. He does not deny it. He looks at the jury, and he asks what a hotel hallway in 2016 proves about who booked a flight for an escort, and for whose purpose, on a completely different set of dates. And then he invokes Rule 403. Here is that mechanism in plain language. Rule 403 lets a judge throw out evidence when its power to unfairly prejudice a jury substantially outweighs how much it proves. And there's a doctrine called spillover, where devastating evidence relevant to one charge bleeds over and poisons the jury's view of a different charge it has nothing to do with. Saul's argument? That video shows domestic violence. It is relevant to a coercion-based trafficking charge, but strip those charges away, and on the bare question of who transported whom across state line and why, the video proves almost nothing. What it does is enrage the jury. Saul turns the prosecution's best weapon into their liability, and argues it should never reach the jury on the only counts left. And this is where the thing I told you to hold on to pays off. Who booked the travel? It undercuts the transportation element on the first argument, and it is the reason the hotel video is prejudicial rather than probative on the counts that remain. One detail wired through the whole case. Same honesty as before. In the real case, the judge pre-rebutted exactly this. He pointed out that the jury acquitted on the counts the video most directly supported, so it obviously did not spill over and poison anything. Sharp point, but that ruling only exists because the real trial kept all 5 counts in front of the jury at once. Saul's whole sequence is built to change the board first, collapse the heavy counts the way the real team did, isolate the 2 travel counts, and only then fight the video on the one terrain where the spillover argument is strongest. So it works. Saul walks Sean Combs out of that federal courthouse on all 5 counts, 0 convictions. The 2 Mann Act counts that put the real man in prison for over 4 years, gone. The 2016 video still exists. Combs' real lawyers called it indefensible. Cassie Ventura's account did not evaporate because a jury had doubt about a travel statute. She settled a civil suit against him and reportedly a separate settlement with the hotel over the hallway assault. The win that Saul engineers is legal. It is not moral.